So sometimes we forget that we need to take care of ourselves. A little bit of self-care goes a long way.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can give so much to other people that you forget.
Guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories, a podcast where we do a deep dive into the lives and the mindset of people who have overcome significant challenges. All of us have had to go through challenges, and I've always said that the success principles are universal. And so we have these conversations because we believe that there is a nugget in there for you. So welcome again, and I'm so pleased to welcome my friend Linda Rawson to the program. Linda, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
It's been a while, and it's really great to catch up, Linda. We always start by asking our guests what it is that they do. How do they serve? How do you serve, Linda? How do you bring value to the lives of others?
Well, I have several different avenues. I own a company called Dinah Grace Enterprises. We're family owned. I own these companies with my daughter. Her and I run these businesses. But Dinah Grace Enterprises, we do tech R&D for the federal government. And currently, we're in a little bit of a pause because of all the things that are going on. But we are hopeful for the future and that we'll be able to serve the federal government in many capacities in the very near future. Then, interestingly enough, on another side of the coin, her and I also own a metaphysical store. So we sell crystals and spell kits and mindset tools on the woo-woo side, which is also a fascinating experience considering a lot of that was developed using science. And then the last thing I do is I consult small businesses, in particular, women and minority owned businesses, on how to obtain federal government contracts, how to get started, how to find the markets, how to find someone in the government that buys what you sell.
Indeed.
So in
So,
those avenues, that's how I serve.
right, right. No, absolutely. And so we know that if the federal government wants to find you, they know how to. But let's say there's someone who wanted to take advantage, learn more about your mindset tools, their woo-woo side, as you put it, or it's a minority, a person would like to figure out how to connect with the government to sell their goods and services. How would they find you, Linda?
The easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm readily available on any Google search. I don't talk about the metaphysical side as much because I've been in the scientific technical side. It's just something that my daughter and I do for fun.
Hmm.
And it has actually grown quite a bit. And we're actually turning quite a good revenue from that metaphysical side. But the side that I really make a difference for small business is with my government contracting and consulting. And I take them and hold their hand and show them how to find the business, how to determine what is selling, where to make the contacts, and they can go from there. It's hard for me to just hand them a contract. I'm not going to be able to do that. But
Hmm.
I can give them the tools and the research capabilities to find what they're looking for, to find their market.
Right. And again, if they were interested in that service, they would find you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Indeed. All right, cool. So now that we know how to find you, Linda, here's the important question. We'd love to hear your keep on pushing story, a time in your life when you had to deal with some changes, some challenges, overcome some obstacles to get to where you are. So do please tell us your keep on pushing story.
Well, I have an interesting story, and it happens to be where I met you. And I believe it was in 2014, 15, 2013, 14, 15, that time period. I maybe 16, 2016. And I had a few of your bobsled members here stay with me, and they were training in Park City, Utah. And it was really a fun period. My mother was beginning to pass transition. Um, I my house was in a state of remodeling. They were on air mattresses, and wherever we could fit them, there was five here, and just lovely people. And to wake up and hear them singing and all of their positivity. And we jump in the van and we take them everywhere, take them everywhere. Just a lovely time. And my mother was getting ready to pass, and I wanted to write my first book. I think sometimes you need to impress your parents, or you want to make them proud, but she could barely talk or anything. But I knew I wanted to write my first book before she passed. So I hunkered down with those lovely singing voices in my house, and the food that they made was just phenomenal. And I spent a couple of weeks and wrote a book about what I knew. And what I knew was how to get started in government contracting. And that book sells and brings in revenue every month, and it's been 8 years since I wrote that book. And I believe it was being able to put that passion into that book, being able to be surrounded by all these optimistic, positive, caring people. And I appreciate every moment of being able to author my first book in that setting. And I believe putting that mindset, that passion, that positivity into that book has really made a difference. And I have people reach out to me all the time thanking me for writing that book. So fast forward to now, and I take the concepts in that book and I help people get started with government contracting.
Yeah. So you said at the time your mother was getting ready to transition.
Yes.
Um, how was that for you emotionally?
It was a tough time. My mother and I got, I mean, she was older when she had me, so I was like this sunshine, I think, when people are in their 40s and they have children, they've waited a long time, or they've had their first litter, second litter, and
Yeah,
these babies come in, and they're so wanted and so welcomed, and so they're experienced now, patient, and that was the kind of relationship that I had with my mother. But when she got Alzheimer's, she changed, and she became angry and very insulting and hard to be around. And if you're experienced with Alzheimer, parents, they go after their children. And I think it's just because they don't want to ask for help from their children, but they know they're going to need it, and it's something along those lines. But they get angry, and some situations happened where she directed her anger at a different person in my family. And the last 2 years, I was able to have this wonderful relationship with my mother. So it was like losing that last connection you have with your parent is is profound and affects you deeply. I felt sad, and I was going to miss her, and hoping that I had made enough memories that I could hang on to that. And there's things like you remember their smell, and you remember the way they laughed, and all of those things are tough when a parent passes.
yeah. So here it is that you're dealing with this ongoing heartbreak of seeing your mother not just transitioning in terms of she's coming to the end of her natural life, but her entire personality changing,
Yeah.
and how much that is hurting you as she lashes out. But you have these noisy Jamaicans in your house. Talk to me about how meeting them, yeah, taking them in actually, which I'm so will forever be grateful to you for. But how connecting with them help you to deal with this other challenge that was happening at the same time?
They took my mind off of it. And, I think sometimes when you're sad or you're grieving, the best thing to do is laugh. And they were full of laughter. They were just so cheerful. And, they worked as a team. So there was never any mess in my kitchen. They would go to the grocery store and get everything they needed to cook. And I experienced Jamaican food, and it was just it was just one of the most, when I looked back on it, the most fond memories in my life. It was
Mhm.
just really, really a fun time.
As you're talking about them, and because I'm intimately familiar with their situation at the time, and you talk about their positivity, they're always singing and just their joy for life. But also understanding that part of the reason why we were at your house is because we had no money, we had no sponsorship. So they were going through a rather challenging time as well, trying to learn a sport because they were new in the sport, without all the resources that they needed to uh, be truly successful. Is there anything that you took away from their situation, their mindset, their approach to this enormous challenge that they were facing and still being able to put a brave face on?
They they took the challenges by storm. I live on a bench, and they would do their sprints up and down the hill. They worked as hard as they could with what they had. It truly is like similar to the movie as
Mm.
far as being able to do rags to riches. Not necessarily riches. They're never going to be, I mean, they could be wealthy, doing
Mm.
other things, but they really truly were not given everything that, say, the US team was given. So it truly was their work ethic and their mindset and their attitude that was going to get them further.
Yeah,
They weren't enabled or given everything to be able to do their job. They had to do it with pure resilience.
yeah. So, you're dealing with the challenge with your mother, you're dealing with these Jamaicans, and that somewhere, where did the inspiration, I guess I should ask you, came from to write your first book?
The inspiration was I really wanted to make my mother proud. I
Mhm.
really wanted to be sure. Sometimes we procrastinate to the point that we never get anything done. And it was like a deadline. I work really well with a deadline. And the deadline was, okay, I know she's going to transition in the next month or two, at maybe two. I just need to get this done and out the door and say I did it, and be able to tell her before she transitions.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say are the biggest lessons you took away from the experience with dealing with your mom, transitioning in all these different ways, dealing with these Jamaicans, and what having your house turned upside down in a way, and watching them deal with their challenges, and I guess getting some inspiration from uh, their outlook on life.
Right. I learned so much during that time period. Number one, these people who work so hard with absolutely nothing to try to achieve their dreams. In between, I'm achieving my dream of writing a book. In between, I'm losing the corner point of my life. And that whole year was a lot. After she passed, with grief, it doesn't end there. And she wasn't the first death in my family. I had also lost a brother a few years before that, where I was his primary caretaker. So having these back-to-back deaths profoundly affected me, and I ended up, after she passed, getting very sick with like a sinus infection, because I think during the time of all of those things happening, you've pushed certain things under the rug. You push your emotions, you push, anything that is going to hold you down. career-wise, in between all of these, having my business booming, all of those things happening at the same time took a toll. So sometimes we forget that we need to take care of ourselves. A little bit of self-care goes a long way.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can give so much to other people that you forget. But all along enjoying it, I love to give to other people. But at some point, you got to say, okay, I got to give to me. It's time for me to have some self-care. And if you don't give yourself self-care, your body's going to make you give yourself self-care.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, we talk about that all the time, that often we leave ourselves for the absolute last because we are giving so much, not realizing that if you're not recharging the battery, that's you, then the energy and that which you have to give runs out. And it's very clear from your story that you just shared with us that you're a really giving person. You are taking care of your mom who is close to the end of her life. At the same time, you're taking in really five strangers in your house and giving them more than we could have ever expected, um, while dealing with your own grief and your own pain and your own tragedy that was ongoing, which I think, Linda, really epitomizes the keep on pushing spirit. So we thank you. We thank you for all that you have done, all that you continue to do. And we thank you for the shining example that you are as someone who knows how to keep on pushing.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Indeed. Guys, if you enjoyed this, if you found it valuable, then don't forget to share it with someone who you think could benefit. And of course, don't forget to drop a comment and hit that like button, subscribe so you can get other inspiring, amazing stories on this podcast. Until we connect next time, you know what to do. Keep on pushing.